Hey, Carrie. I'm so
Hey,
glad you're here talking to me.
thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Can you introduce yourself for a second? What you do, where you're from, all those things?
Yeah, sure. I live in Charlottesville, Virginia, one of my favorite cities. Not to play favorites, but
I
I
love
am a wedding photographer, a wedding photographer, portrait photographer, and I have been doing that for the past 5 years. This is my fifth year of business, and I absolutely love what I do. Work with some of the best people out there, and have met some incredible people along the way, including yourself.
Hey,
Um, yeah.
likewise. Um, okay, well, so we're talking a little bit about the mastermind today. Can you kind of like tell me where things were at a couple years ago, how you've grown since then, what like being in a mastermind has looked like for you in general, or just kind of some of your path of growth?
Yeah, I definitely have been running from a make ends meet kind of way since I started my business. A lot of that has been justified by me saying I don't know what I'm doing, which is really just an excuse. And I think when you and I first started talking, a lot of my struggles stemmed from just a lack of confidence, a lot of fear, fear both of failing and of succeeding,
Yeah.
just because I felt like so many people are doing this, and what happens when I actually figure out who my ideal client is, and when I actually start making money, like how do I handle that? I don't know. And so I think being in the mastermind was important to me because I'm a firm believer that like we shouldn't do things alone, in any area of life. Life is just so much fuller and richer when you have people around you. And so being in a group of, really awesome women who are all navigating their own business and their own lives, and just being able to bounce ideas off of each other and gain perspective from each other, and also just like laugh and eat Thai food together, has been invaluable. And like, yeah, I mean, I've just seen how that's affected me a lot in the past year since having started it, and makes me like stoked for next year because it's going to be bigger and better, and I'm scared, but like in the best way because I know good things are coming. So yeah, I think that answers that.
Yeah, totally. Well, like in addition to, because I've seen you like totally break past lots of fear and lots of like your confidence is just like, whew. But like besides those, or I guess it's kind of wrapped into those, like what are some really tangible things you've seen happen? Like where were you at in January? Where do you feel like you are now? What fears were you kind of like, what were things that you were afraid of back a year ago versus now? Or what does business look like that's different?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is knowing who I am and how that relates to my business and how that then attracts the clients that I want to work with. I think establishing messaging and integrating, a bit of your personal self with your business is huge. And I feel like I've really stepped into that in the past year. And the more that I've, sat down and really honed in on what it is that I have to offer, the easier it then becomes to, speak to the clients who are out there looking for that. So that's definitely been a really big thing. And I also struggled with looking around at like what everybody else was doing and thinking like, well, I can't raise my prices because X person has been doing this for longer and she charges this much. And so overcoming that and kind of putting blinders up a little bit of like, okay, but what do you offer? What do you want to charge? What do you want your clients to experience? And really just coming at every business decision from that standpoint has also been big. And practically raising my prices, that was huge. That was a very scary thing for me. And I'll never forget having this planner that I really admired reach out to me, that she had like a couple who was looking for a photographer, and I sent her my pricing and I was super pumped, only to realize that like the clients had a photography budget that was twice what I charged. And it was kind of this moment of like, dang, this is so silly. Like the clients who are out there, who have money to spend, who are also down to earth and personable, who this planner thinks would be a good fit for me, like they exist. So raising my prices was huge, but because I'd done all the work on the back end of like figuring out what I offer, what the experience looks like, the value in what I do, I was able to do it from a more confident standpoint.
And you got to workshop those things with the group too. So we like
Yeah.
went through all those, and you got to get feedback from everyone as you were building that whole profile. So that
Yeah.
helped a piece of it too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it was funny too, because when we sat down and did it, I had not ever realized that like I'd already worked with my ideal client before, because I think it's easy to feel like, you write out all this stuff of like, what is an ideal client, and where do they shop, and what do they wear, and who are they, and what do they love? And it's like this unicorn, this like mythical thing that like
Yeah,
maybe
like
they're
not
out
real.
there. I don't know, but I've never seen them. But the reality is I had already worked with them, and like workshopping that at our meeting with everyone and having them say, well, like, what did you love about this person? And, what did they invest in your services? And I was like, oh shoot, like I've actually worked with some really ideal clients who have checked a lot of boxes, and maybe they didn't check like a couple, but then I was able to say, okay, well, moving forward, how do I get to that person that checks all the boxes, who I know is going to love working with me, and I'm going to love working with them. And just being able to have people who are in different like places in their business, like, Ashley, who's in our group, who's an artist, like having her opinion and thoughts in there too. It's just so helpful because she's coming at it from a totally different place than, someone who's also a photographer is. And so it gave me a lot of clarity in that area.
Yeah, totally. Because when we have like clarity and confidence, then you can go into a price raise being like, this is what I have to do. I've built the systems to like make this successful, and I know exactly who I'm targeting. And so then you start seeing the results faster because like you're like, oh, I know what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Instead of like, ooh, what do I do? I don't know.
And then it makes it easier then to say no too. And that's been another big thing for me, where because of my fear on money, I would say yes to anyone who came my way, yes to every random side job out there, because I was fearful of like not being able to make ends meet. But now with, a price raise and just knowing where my money's going, like that was another thing we've talked through in our mastermind of like setting up our accounts and, what that looks like for each of us. That's been huge, because then it's so much easier to say, you know what? I know that we're not a good fit. Here's someone who's a better fit. And then I don't feel like, oh gosh, I can't believe I said yes to this. And I know I'm going to wish that I hadn't down the road, and I'm not doing them, any justice by having said yes. So that's another thing that's been really good too.
Yeah. And I know this time, like last year, there's something that you have a pattern of doing that you're not doing this year, right?
Oh my gosh, it's so bad. Every year around this time, I freak out because I look ahead. I feel like I haven't booked enough weddings. I feel like I haven't saved enough money to get through slow season. And I always go out and get a part-time job. That's great for the first 3 months. And then I am miserable. And then literally every time. And this is the first year where I'm not only not going out to do that, because I know that like my bookings will be solid, but also because I, over the course of the year, have prepared for, this time of year, and I hadn't ever done that before. And so it just feels so exciting knowing that I won't be locked into some, Monday through Wednesday gig in the new year that then keeps me from doing the thing that I love the most. So that has like been hands down one of the biggest wins in being in the mastermind, and having people to hold me accountable too, of like, Carrie, we know you do this. Don't do it again. So I'm very pumped about that.
Because now you have all that time to spend time booking your ideal clients for next year instead of being scared and working on something different. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, who would you So who would you say, if someone's like on the fence or thinking about the mastermind, like who do you think this would be good for? Or like, what do you think, what would you tell someone who's like considering it?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's good for everyone. Literally. It just is. Doesn't matter where you are in your business. It's just so good. But seriously, I mean, I think anyone who feels like fear is the driving force behind what they're doing, that is the greatest weight I think you can carry as a creative, as a business owner, because when you do make a decision out of fear, it becomes stressful and it causes anxiety, and then your mental health suffers, and then your physical health suffers, and then your personal life suffers, and it's just not worth it. It's not. And I think, as cheeseball as it sounds, everyone deserves to love what they do and find joy in it. And I think taking the time to invest in that, it's invaluable and it's worth its weight in gold. And I know even for me, like signing up for the mastermind for next year, there was this brief moment of like, okay, this is a big investment. Like, are you sure you want to do this? But at the end of the day, I've seen the way the past year has affected me in so many amazing ways. And I just know that like this next year is going to be amazing, because it means meeting more awesome people who want to cheer you on and want to, support you. And it means traveling to cool places and experiencing new things. And there's kind of no reason not to do it. I mean, I know that sounds kind of silly, but you have to invest in yourself if you want to have something to give to all the people that you want to serve through, your art and your business. So
yeah, totally. I agree. And when you've like walked around feeling the weight of fear constantly for your business, and then you step to like the other side of the curtain, you're almost like, everyone, come on this side. It feels so good.
I'm doing it. It's so nice.
Never go back there.
The water's warm, I promise.
Yeah,
it's so true. It's so true. Because you just, and I think too about the shift that I've had of like comparing myself to other people and, being like, oh, I can't believe this person's doing that, or I wish I was doing this. And you sort of start to like forget about those things because you just feel so sure in what you're doing and who you are that it's like, at the end of this day, those people have their clients and that's great. And they have their business and that's great. But like, I love what I'm doing. I love who I'm serving, and I know who those people are now. And so you want to support everyone. You want to bring them along and be like, let's like do this together. It's going to be a good old time.
That's awesome. Yeah. You don't waste energy worrying about people anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get asked the question a lot of like, will I be able to make back my investment? Do you feel like you made back your investment this year?
Yes, 100%, 110%. Yeah, I mean, I think there were weddings that I booked, like the highest, this year was the first year I booked the highest collection I'd ever booked in 5 years. And so much of that came from how I approached the call I had with the client, because I took the things we had workshopped, the things we had talked through into that call and was able to confidently say, this is what I charge based on what you're saying. Here's what I think you need. And the bride was like, you're right. Like, you have done this. You're the expert. Like, let's do it. And so, yeah, hands down, definitely feel like I made back what I invested for sure.
Awesome. Cool. And then what's something you're excited about for next year?
Besides Paris and Portugal?
Or just in general for your business. What are you going into the new year with excitement for things?
I am. I mean, I think part of that comes from it's like 2020, and I don't know, something about that. It's just exciting. Justin Timberlake 2020 experience. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited again just to like dive deeper. Like, I think you can easily hit that point of like, well, this is good enough. I feel like I know all that I need to know, so I'm good here. But I always want to know more. I always want to figure out what more can I be giving my client that not only serves them well, but is also like life-giving for me. And I think, I've reached that point where I'm not content with, just breaking even when it's all said and done. Like, I want to make this business work for me in the long term, and just establish systems and, again, dive more into who my ideal client is, because that's going to change from year to year. I think, like, is
Buy a house.
maybe buy a house. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of big things, and so I'm done sort of having my business run me ragged, and I want to like run my business really well so that every other area of my life can just like thrive. And yeah, well, my business has served me a little bit.
Amazing. Right. Well, thanks, Carrie. Thanks for talking with me about this. I'm gonna
Of
hit.
course.
Bye.